Hi, Pete's fans. Welcome to another episode of For Pete's Sake, your podcast on everything Peterborough Pete's. It is almost the end of another calendar year. We are filming on December 30th. I can't believe how fast it's gone. December 30th of 2024. 2025 is just around the corner. And Christmas has now officially come and gone. Did you have a good Christmas, Matt?
Yeah, no complaints. Yourself?
Yeah, it was pretty good. You know, the usual, getting together with some of the family, eating some delicious turkey and stuffing and potatoes and all that awesome delicious carbs and protein that is essential for living, as you know.
Yeah.
And then it was fun just, with the young guy. My son, turned 7 months on the 27th, so it was fun to be around him for his first Christmas and watch him taking the season. Did you have any highlights, any awesome gifts you got this year, or anything that jumped out to you this holiday season?
I think I'm just thankful for what I have and the life I have, and just the gratitude around this season, because there's so many people that have so much less than you, and kind of seeing people, seeing those people go out and help people more frequently this time of year is nice to see. And then just visiting with family, friends, is always a good time. And I think for me at this age, it's less about the presents and just more about the quality time and, just spending time with people you care about and catching up with people that you haven't seen in a while. I think that's the most important thing for me anyway.
Well, it's very mature of you. I very much like the presents. So, well put. And it's great to have Pete's hockey back. I mean, I am glad the guys get to go home with their families, get a break, but it is nice to have the Pete's back. They were playing so well heading into the break. So we'll talk about that. For today's show, we're actually going to have a couple of weeks worth of content. We missed last week. Unfortunately, some technical difficulties didn't allow us updates, so we're going to jam 2 weeks worth of content and also do a little first half kind of summary in today's episode. So like I said, there's 3 games we're going to go over. 2 of them did take place before the Christmas break, so they had a game against Ottawa 67s, and then they had a game against Kingston. They had their break. They came back and they played actually just yesterday, which was the 29th against Ottawa 67s again. So we'll have recap and analysis of all those games. We're going to do our 3 stars of the first half instead of our usual 3 stars of the week. Give some shout outs. This was a tough one because guys have been turning it on lately, and there's lots of guys that could have got a mention, but we will give our take. Then we're going to go through the first half, give you some of the stats, who's leading the way, and who surprised us, who stood out, who are we looking forward to seeing in the second half, maybe even where do the Petes go from here with trade deadline coming up as well. And then we're going to talk about a upcoming stretch which is daunting. A lot of road games coming up for the Petes, so we will get you hyped up for that. And and let you know where the Petes will be visiting in the start of a new calendar year.
Yep.
Well, anyways, let's get started. We're going all the way back to December 19th for our first game recap. It was, like I said, a game against the Ottawa 67s, and this was a fun one. The Petes came away in a shootout. It was Zach Bowen's return from an injury. Petes came away, like I said, 4-3. The Petes actually never trailed in this game, which is something that's nice to see. We've seen them have leads earlier in the year, only to sometimes give them up, unfortunately. And some of those games they've ended up winning in extra time. Some of them they've come on the wrong side, where they've actually let a lead slip away. So good on them that they never trailed. And they could hold off that lead. And even though they did need extra time, it's a sign of a team that's improving, where they get to have the lead for more of the game and they get to dictate some of the play. Page Beautiful goal in this game where he, it was the final, got the Pete's on the board with a really beautiful goal, kind of like an individual effort around the guy, and then some really nice hands in tight to finish it off, which, Page is an unbelievable player, and it's nice for him to display that high-end skill that we know he has. They held the lead up until the final second of the period where Ottawa actually scored on the power play. We were at the game, and it was one of those ones where it wasn't debatable. The puck definitely went in before the final buzzer. Tough way to end the final period. You hate giving up those goals in the final minute or in the final second. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But to the boys' credit, second period, all Peterborough outshot Ottawa 19-4. And they scored 2 more goals, Fitzgerald and Young. Great second period. The boys were looking really strong, not intimidated at all by Ottawa 67s, and like they could definitely play and win against those guys. Ottawa got a power play in the third, did draw within 1, and then had some momentum after that. They did tie it up shortly after to send the game into extra frame. In overtime, Ottawa 67s actually got a penalty shot, and Zach Bowen was stellar. Looked calm, cool, collected, and he made a big save at a big moment. Went to the shootout. Caden Taylor, it seems automatic when they give him. He kind of has a move that he likes to pull where he goes quick to the forehand, or to his forehand, and then kind of snaps it really quick past the goalie. He pulled that patent move off, and it worked like a charm. And Zach Bowen stopped all 3 shooters. So makes his return. Not only does he go the distance, make some big saves in regulation, but he faces a penalty shot in overtime, and then 3 more shooters in a shootout. So I thought a great way to welcome Zach Bowen back with a win. And a great way to end the final home game before Christmas.
Yeah.
The following night, Matt's going to take us through a game down the road, Kingston, which is another one of our Eastern rivals.
Yeah, so they wrapped up their first half against Kingston. Kingston, again, is a veteran team. Didn't lose really any of their players to the World Juniors other than, I think 2 guys went to Finland. But they had their main guys in the lineup, Battaglia, Soto. They had their full roster. We had our full roster, but I think this was a game where the Petes come off a back-to-back game. Mm-hmm. Kingston's a veteran team, and they just kind of put their foot on the gas and didn't let up. Easton Rye got the start, which is nice to see him still get some playing time. And he looked good. There's not much he could have done in this game. They kind of just lost their legs a little bit, but he didn't give up. He made some big saves, but at the end, Kingston grabbed this one 4-1. The Petes were actually held under 7 shots in 2 of the periods, which is a pretty good recipe to not win a game, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And this was with them having 6 power plays. So with 6 power plays in the game, they only got 18 shots. Mm-hmm. You should probably have a few more than that.
Yeah.
With that much time on the man advantage, but they could never really get it going. Although they did score on 1 power play, Caden Taylor scored when he's kind of getting on a roll of scoring every game and getting some confidence.
Yep.
And that was their lone goal, was on the power play by him. And I think this is one of the only instances where I've seen the officiating kind of get the Petes off their game. So Ula got hit from behind after Kingston scored, went down, and the Petes kind of took some after the whistle shots and kind of let that get under their skin. And they kind of took themselves out of the game because it was a back-to-back. They were tired and they couldn't use their full lines because they were killing penalties or using the same guys on the power play. So I think it's a game again where a veteran team learns how to beat you. They just kind of get ahead and they just say, we're going to win this game, and they just kind of put their foot down, and I thought dominated this game from start to finish. There wasn't really any of this game where I thought the Petes were going to win it. Which in every other game they've lost this year, you can see they have a chance, but in this one, Kingston's just like, we're the better team, we're going to win this on our home ice, and they did a stand-up job for Kingston on this one. They just played a good home game.
Kingston been impressive to me this year. They're a team that I not necessarily I wouldn't have necessarily put as like an upper tier team this year, but they've shown up against the Petes and shown pretty well each game I've seen. So I was impressed to see them play well again.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then shall we move on to the most recent game?
Yeah.
Pete's come back from all their holiday breaks. They got to hopefully go home, rest up a little bit, see some family, and they were right back at it. Yesterday was an afternoon game against the Ottawa 67s, first home game of the unofficial second half of the year. It was unfortunately a 5-4 loss in regulation, and it was a heartbreaker, wasn't it, Matty Reese?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, so 5-4, and the final goal, the winning goal, went in with 11 seconds left in the third. So fun,
fans.
Yeah, fun game to be at. The Pete's fans did fill the barn. It was a sellout. Lots of noise. I got to take my son to the game, which was fun because it was an afternoon game, and he really enjoyed the sights and the sounds. So that was a fun experience for sure. High scoring game. It was 3-3 after the first period, and nice to see some of the guys keep it going. Caden Taylor had 2 goals in that first period. The other one was by Parrish. So tied up going into the second period. Second period saw the Petes take the lead with a nice goal coming down the side. It was Levac who got a bit of a rush, and he fired a shot top shelf. Very nice goal. Unfortunately, Ottawa would tie things up on the power play midway through the third, and then, like we said, they were in the zone. They had some extended zone pressure. You could almost see it coming. I was hopeful that the Petes could hold off and at least extend it to get another point, in some extra time. But the puck went in with 11 seconds left. Not meant to be. Ottawa takes it 5-4. Strong game in terms of, the Petes were able to battle back. Their offense was scoring.
Power play, 2 goals.
Power play was strong. A little bit undisciplined, I saw it sometimes. Again, I think it was, like Matt said the game before in Kingston, there were some really bad non-calls by the ref, if I, in my opinion. And the Petes responded, and then the refs would get them. So there was a slash, by Caden Taylor. There was a couple shoves after the whistle. Yeah, that just it's tough.
Matichuk's penalty led to the tying goal.
Exactly. Yeah, you want the guys to play with emotion. But it hurt them that the penalties were taken at bad times in bad situations, and it did end up costing them. So I thought the discipline really hurt them, and just a couple defensive lapses too, which does happen. But a couple of the goals were just defense getting crossed up in their own end, and not just defensemen, defensive zone coverage getting crossed up. A little turnover, and then the Petes were able to, or the 67s were able to capitalize.
Yeah.
So, but fun to be back, fun to see them. Their offense was going really strong, and certainly they weren't dominated in this game by any means. They were the stronger team for large stretches as well. It was just inopportune timing with some penalties and some giveaways. So
probably Nico Addy's best game.
Oh, Nico Addy was great. Yeah, he's a guy, you really want to cheer for and succeed. He seems like a really great guy and a good, character guy, big body, and he was getting his shot away. He was finishing his checks, so very nice to see. Another thing I will add, Mali got in a little scrap, laid a very, very nice and clean hit. Yeah. And then it seems that every time you lay a big hit, you got to fight nowadays, so... It is what it is, whatever you think of that rule. Mali got into a fight, and he held his own as well. Yeah, so who knew that he had that side to him?
Yeah, but I didn't know that Addy might have as hard of a shot as Taylor.
Oh, he's got a wicked hard shot.
He rocketed one over the blue line that hit the boards, and it was hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, I knew he had it in him, but he might envy Taylor's shot in terms of velocity, maybe not accuracy yet, but
Or
his
release,
shot
yeah. Yeah.
is hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So those are the final 3 games. I guess we'll kind of go into our 3 stars.
Yeah.
3
first
stars
half.
of the first half. Like we said, unfortunately, we couldn't name more people. With the Pete's playing well, especially like heading up to the Christmas break, there are certainly some guys that made a case, but we narrowed it down to our 3, and we'll dive right in. So first of all, we went with Zach Bowen. He was playing really, really well, even when the team wasn't winning. You could see games where he was at least giving them a chance. And unfortunately, he did have that injury. He was out for just over a month. The Petes did, Easton Rye stepped in really well. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the Petes did notice his departure, I'm sure. They're happy to have him back. And then he makes a great statement his first game back with that shootout win. Like we said, he is rocking a .902 save percentage, which is pretty stellar for what the Pete's record is. So good on him.
Yep.
Solid first half for Zach Bowen taking over the net.
Yep.
Second, Aiden Young, a player that I've been really impressed with this year. I thought, he had a lot of skill coming over last year. We knew he had good hands, knew he was a great playmaker, and his confidence, I think, is higher this year.
Yep.
I don't know if you agree, I think he's the best I've seen in a while at zone entry.
Yeah.
Whether it's power play, whether it's 5-on-5, he is very elusive.
Yeah.
He makes great moves to get the puck into the other zone. He's got really, really good hockey IQ,
Yep.
good hands, a little bit undersized, but he can work on adding some strength. And he was rewarded with one of the Pete's 2 picks to the Prospects game. So he will be at the OHL Prospects game coming up in the new year. So good on you, Aiden Young. And the third one, Martin Matejchuk, defenseman. He is our import. He is he's Czechia, isn't he? Czechia, came over last year in a trade. I think he's been really, really steady back there. His offense kind of came alive right before the Christmas break as well. He had 3 goals in 2 games.
Yeah.
And he's just been, like I said, a steady, reliable figure on the back end for a team, that has some younger defensemen back there. I'm sure he's a great influence on those guys. And it's been noticeable that his composure and his defensive play back there has certainly turned some heads for us fans. So those 3 guys, like we said, many others we could mention, but we'll start with those guys for the first half, and hopefully those guys and some other guys can continue to build on it as we start the second half of the year as well.
Yep.
So first half recap, Matt, why don't you take us through some of the stats, and then we'll get into some of kind of our analysis and impressions of the first half.
Yeah. So no one's going to argue it was a tough first half for the Petes.
Yeah.
7 wins, 20 losses, 2 overtime losses, 4 shootout losses. Mm-hmm. It's a tough record.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like we've mentioned lots of times, a lot of these games could have gone the other way for the Petes. Just couldn't seem to get that one goal, or it had that one kind of 10 minutes off and let the other team kind of take over the game. Against their own division, they're 2-9, 2-3, so struggling a little bit in their own division. Their division is strong, so that's kind of expected. You've got Oshawa, you've got Brantford in there, you've got Kingston in there. So it's a tough division. Central Division, they're 2-4, 0-1. The Midwest, they're 1-5. That's the division with London and Kitchener, so you can kind of expect that. And then the other West Division, they're actually 500. They're 2-2 against. So they're kind of where I thought they'd be a little higher. Not gonna lie, a little bit stronger record.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where it sits. Really struggling in their own division. Starting to get closer to those teams, but not finding the win column yet. But there's time to kind of turn that around and get some big wins against your division. and they're close games. So I guess the positive of that is they're staying with those teams. Now it's just turning those into victories and kind of flipping the script a little bit.
Yeah.
Their goals for, I think this kind of speaks to why their first half was a little bit underwhelming. Can I use that word? Is that a bad word to use?
No.
They only scored 76 goals in the first half, and they gave up 130. So that's 54 more goals they gave up than scored. You're not going to win a lot of games when you have a minus 54 goal differential. So that kind of speaks to their offensive struggles. Their power play is not too strong, unfortunately, which is 14.1%, which is 18th out of 20 teams. And their penalty kill was 77.3, so 13th overall. So not terrible, but not upper echelon.
Yeah.
And they take a lot of penalties, so it needs to be upper echelon if you're going to take a lot of penalties.
Yep.
And they had 447 penalty minutes, which is the sixth most, which is probably the least shocking number of the first half for me.
They play a feisty game. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's any numbers in there that stick out to you, or we just move on to the ratings or things that you noticed. I didn't really want to get into how many shots they've given up on net because it'd probably be in the upper echelon of teams as well.
I will just say, their record obviously not great, 7 wins. But as Matt alluded to, we're 9 points back from the next closest team in the East, but we're 3 points back from both Owen Sound and Guelph. Yeah. So, in terms of finishing dead last in the league, like there's a good chance the Petes, crawl their way into, they may not make the playoffs. They might still. There's still a chance. They go on a crazy run. It's not over till it's over. They certainly have to dig themselves out of a gigantic hole. But there was a time when they were kind of separated from everyone, and they've crept their way back to at least gaining on 2 more teams in the West. So just shows you what, a couple good weeks of hockey can do and how fast it can change. Yeah. So keep supporting them. Yeah. Because you never know. Yeah. We can keep climbing. For sure. Keep climbing. Yeah. Anyway,
so what do you think about rating the positions now? Just kind of how we see it. Yeah. Again, we're not the coach, so don't. Yeah. So if you had to rate, let's start with the goalies for you. Yeah. Do you want to do letter grades or you want to go 1 to 10?
Let's do letter grades. Okay. Yeah, letter grades. So
where would you be for goalies?
I go B+. Yeah. Solid. They've kept teams in the game. So an A+ for me would be like they're stealing you wins, like multiple shutouts, like high 920 save percentage, like phenomenal. Yeah. I thought Zach Bowen was very, very solid. I thought he gave himself a chance to win. I was worried when he went down. I think Easton Rye stepped in and exceeded my expectations in every way. Same with Mason Johnson. Yeah. A lot to ask for a young guy to come in and take over and play some very good teams.
And always on the road.
Yeah, so I think that bumped it up for me a little bit to a B+. I was thinking maybe a B. I think it's been generally pretty good. It hasn't hurt them. No. I wouldn't say it's like stolen them a ton of games. There's been games where the goalkeeping's been strong. Yeah. But it hasn't been like stealing games. Hasn't hurt them. Yeah. B+. What about you?
Yeah, I'd say B+, and I would go echo what you're saying, but I'd also say I don't know if there's a team that likes their depth in goal as much as the Petes do. Yeah. You have Bowen playing well, and then you have Ryan Johnson right in the wings who look like they're ready to go. Yep. So I would say because of the depth and because large amounts of games we were outshot and we were still in the game. Yeah. And I think their ability to make saves, even if they let in a weak one, has improved. Right. There's games last year where Bowen would let in a weak goal and then it would affect them. Yeah. Or Rye would, and it just doesn't happen. They'll let in a weak goal and they'll just be shrug it off, and they'll just continue to play and make big saves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
How about for this team's forwards? Where would you go on, or do you want me to go first on this one?
Yeah, you take the first one, and then I'll give you my take.
Yeah. I'm trying not to be negative here. I really thought we would score more goals than we have. I thought our team was better than last year's team in terms of offensive weapons. And with them coming back off a rookie year. So I'm gonna have to go a C.
Yeah.
Just because for me, and this is because it would be lower, but they've been getting better. So like there was a point where like I was waiting for our overage players to start scoring more and kind of being those game breakers. And the Petes started to win games in the first half when their overagers started making big plays. Bryant getting overtime winners. Malik getting big shorthanded goals. McCallum getting big points. Page getting a big goal against Ottawa. Like, that hasn't happened enough for me. And I was, not that they're playing bad, but I would have expected Taylor to be kind of at the 15 goal mark by this point. Not that he's playing bad. I'm not being critical of him. I just thought some of the players would score more. I thought Addy would have more than one goal. I don't know. C for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say C minus. Again, not to be super negative. It's just, I know what this team's capable of because they've shown it. They've had games, even the most recent one, where they were able to score a lot of goals. And there's been times where it's been pretty dry. You look at this is going not including the most recent game. Matt just mentioned a few minutes ago they're at 76 goals. That's last in the league. Like there are teams that, again, you look at a team that's loading up. They're going to definitely be higher, but there's teams that have 152 goals. So like that's considerably higher. I thought we had a bit more firepower. Our leading point getters at 19 points. I think the league leaders at 62. Again, it's you play on a stronger team, you're gonna have a chance for more points. So I don't want to call anyone out because I think we started to turn it on a little bit closer to Christmas. But I thought with the personnel, like you said up front, I thought we might have a little bit more goals, maybe closer to 100 by now. Another 20 goals or something. And certainly some individuals like you said, like Caden Taylor. I remember at the start of the year with his shot. And he had a decent preseason. I was thinking maybe it wasn't out of the question for him to get really hot and get like 30 goals. And so he's at 10 right now.
Even think of a guy like Lefebvre who they traded. He had like 5 in the preseason. He got a hat trick, and you're like, this guy's going to lead our team. And then he didn't really score. He didn't get dressed.
He trailed off for a bit.
And that's not because he's a bad player.
No,
it's just things that you thought were looking, they're going that direction, just kind of didn't. Anyway. Well, how about defense for you?
Defense for me, I'll start this one up. I think it's got to be like another C. Young guys coming in, and again, we don't want to be negative, but you look at that goal differential minus 54. You look at the actual plus minus of players, and a team that plus minus it's a stat that can sometimes be misleading because if you're on the ice more, you're going to be on for more goals against. Even the best players in the league, best players in the NHL, best players in the OHL, best players in any league you're in are going to be on for more goals against if they play more time. I get that. But to see like no real players in the plus, they've tightened it up recently. But the start of the year, there were some breakdowns where they still weren't quite sure where they were covering, or it looked a little scrambly in our end. Our zone exits, I thought, struggled at the start of the year. It's come a long way. But if you look like, Carson Cameron, who's kind of, I consider, one of the leaders of the team, I'd say he's having an okay year. He hasn't like jumped off the page. He's definitely progressed into a leader on the team. Matejicek's been okay. We have like some veterans, Strohak, Jenkin, and then some of the young guys. Eula's been good. Marintet hasn't got a ton of time. Lads, like I'd say everyone's kind of taken a little bit of a step, but it hasn't been as much as I maybe thought off the bat. And then I think, like I said, a little bit scrambly.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a rambled answer, but I would say a C, just based off the goal differential and kind of the eye test as well. What about you?
Yeah, I would go C plus. And the only reason it's a bit higher for me is because I wasn't expecting the emergence of like Ula to be as impactful as he's been. I think he's starting to show that he could be a really elite defenseman in his upper years.
Yeah.
I like the depth we have. The only thing that I'd want to see in the second half is this a defensive core that can shut other teams down. Because we're going to have probably the same defense next year. So is this the defense you can roll with, or does it need to be improved, is what I'm going to be looking at in the second half.
Yep.
Can these guys find their partner, gel with them, grow as a group? And it kind of hurt to see two really bad defensive passes between defensemen that led into goals in our first game back a little bit. Because it kind of looked like their first game a little bit, and I haven't seen that in a while. So it's just kind of weird to see their veterans and rookies making kind of those errors this late in the season.
Yeah.
That's being harsh, but
Yeah.
we
got to be real
I
too.
need to see them be a little bit
Yep.
tighter in their own end and make better judgment calls some of the time.
Yep. Agreed. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
For sure.
but I do like a lot of guys on this team. I think both of us do. We believe in this team, the direction they can head in, which is why I think our grades are so low, is because we know we can see where the peak of it is, and they haven't really reached that yet. But when they do, they'll take off. I don't know
Agreed.
if that's well said or not. But
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rookies. What are you thinking? What's your
You know,
grade?
for me, I'd have to go a B.
Yeah.
Because I was not expecting Levesque and Parrish to be as valuable as they've been.
Yeah.
Best line on last game was Levesque, Parrish, and Addy.
Last couple games,
Yeah.
like their energy, like they're hemming the other team in the zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's impressive to watch.
Yeah.
I agree.
And Levesque has 4 goals.
Yeah.
He's like a 5th round pick or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Parrish-
I wasn't even convinced he
Yeah.
would make the team.
I didn't think Parrish would make the team either. And
Yeah.
they both have proved, like, that's why the coaches are so smart, because
Yeah.
they believed in these guys.
Yep.
And they're proving it.
Yeah.
They're in the lineup every game
Yeah.
when there's healthy scratches. Their defense, Ula is looking good. Marinteti's looking good. Gowan was looking better as the kind of first half was wrapping up.
Yep.
Fitzgerald has been, I think, as projected. He's big, he's physical.
Tied for top 10
7 goals.
in scoring. Yep.
That's like, when's the last time we've had a forward score 7 goals in their rookie season?
Yeah.
Like, not very recently.
Yeah.
Like, even Eric Cornell didn't get 7 goals
Yeah.
when he was a top 3 pick.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's not even, it's halfway. Like,
Yeah.
you
Johnson in net.
Yep. Yeah. I agree. I would go B plus. Like, I was right where you were. And the thing that put me just a tad higher was Mason Johnson.
Yeah.
Not that the other guys have been bad. Like I could shout the praise of all the guys you just did.
Yeah.
I agree with your assessment of guys like Parrish and Levesque, guys I didn't even think would make the team.
Yeah.
And they've been really good. And then Eula, another guy, made the roster and has looked good back there. I see lots of potential. I've been really impressed with Gowan leading up to the break. I think he was playing it safe early in the year, which is totally valid. You come into a new league. And then I think he's really started to show his poise, his physical side as well. Got his first goal on a nice backdoor play,
Teddy Bear Night.
which was really, really nice. Was that?
Teddy Bear Night.
Teddy Bear Night, yeah, absolutely. Got the nice goal there, and then Fitzgerald, like I said, it's a big ask for a guy drafted 3rd overall to come in and not be intimidated. And I haven't seen him be intimidated. He throws his weight around. He plays a smart game, and the stats will come.
Yeah.
I'm convinced. So I'm saying B plus.
Yeah.
All right, and then the other end of the scale, the overagers. Is this me first this time?
Yeah.
Yeah, over it, maybe I would say it's a tough call, because
I don't even know if I want to rate them. How about we go with this? I like their demeanor
Yeah.
and their character.
Yeah.
Of our overagers, I'd say is top notch.
Yeah.
McIntyre is great with the players.
Yeah.
Malise has, you can prove if your captain's working his tail off, the guys follow along. And the Petes have been a team that's been a lunchbox team. They go hard.
Yeah.
They play hard.
Yeah.
Bryant's come in, has his own corner for doing
Yeah.
things for the community, has scored big overtime goals. For me, the part that's hard to give them a higher ranking is they for large portions of the first half, our overages weren't doing enough.
Yeah.
For me personally,
Right.
they need to be your best players, and there was nights where they were invisible.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fair to say, but there was nights where you're just.
I actually had a letter. I was going to say a B minus. I don't know if that's around where you were at.
Yeah.
I think Gavin Bryan actually came in and was a pleasant surprise for me.
Yeah.
But you're right. Especially on a team that struggles to score goals, we needed a bit more from the guys up front, and I know they're capable of it, and that's the only reason it's a little bit lower.
Yeah.
But I agree 100% with what you're saying. An important role for the overagers on a team like the Petes that are rebuilding is being the character guys, being guys you can approach in the dressing room. And if it was just going based off that, it's like an A for me.
Yeah.
I think Malie's a great captain. I think he's got good leadership qualities. I think McIntyre's good in the room. We mentioned on the last show he stepped in and fought after Fitzgerald got a huge hit against him crossing the blue line. And you could see how much it meant to the guys.
Yeah.
And then Gavin Bryant, like you said, it was well documented that he was really liked in Niagara last year, and he came over and he's hit the ground running and been great. So I agree with you on that. If it was just off ice stuff, a little bit higher, but maybe a little tiny bit more on ice. And I think they would have a couple more wins if they had.
Yeah.
So well said. Well said. Anyways, all right. Now let's do a couple more questions here. Most pleasant surprise from the first half.
It's a tough one. There's been, it's got to be Ryan and Johnson.
Yeah.
I was expecting us to take a big step back, just not because they're not good goalies, but just because they haven't played. Mm-hmm. And the Petes give up a lot of shots, and they went in, and it's like we didn't miss a beat.
Yeah. Easton Rye especially wasn't so sure about it just because I hadn't seen enough of him. He had a couple rough games last year stats wise. And he stepped in and he was great. He's got a new mask now, which looks beautiful, by the way. Nice to see two local kids. And it was nice to see when they won, like how happy they were for each other, for Rye. Like Johnson and Rye had hugged each other and were happy, and they would celebrate, as a team, and it was so cool to see them just excited for a guy like Rye that's worked his tail off and is finally getting a chance to show what he can do.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm gonna throw in just so I'm different than you. I'll go Gavin Bryant. I've actually been really impressed with his transition. I was a bit critical of the trade. We trade Lefebvre shortly after, but we pick up Bryant. We gave up a third rounder for him, which isn't nothing to sneeze at. And I was almost like, why do we need to do this? It didn't seem like a trade that made sense at the time. And he stepped in, scored some very, very nice, well needed overtime winning goals. Some important goals. He works hard. He's a great guy in the room. So I think it's been a good addition, and it shows you trust the management of the Petes.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. This is not to get negative, but what are you expecting a little more from this team?
Yeah, I'm going to say Caden Taylor. I thought it was, he was going to, pop off, and with his shot and his offensive talent, I think he has the potential to score in that 30, maybe even if he had an awesome year, that 40 goal range, like power play time, excellent release. He hit a bit of a dry spell. Again, this is not to harp on the guy, get negative on him. I just know what he can be, like and I think he's got an NHL release. I think his shot is fantastic. I think he he's figuring out that that's not enough, and you need to create your own space, and you need to work both ends of the ice. And I've seen an improvement in that.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, it's hard for a guy who's got such a high offensive skills to know that they need to work on the other parts of the game, and they need to put in the work to get open. But that's what the great ones do.
Yeah.
You see it in the OHL and you see it in the NHL. The guys that have continual success, realize what parts of their game they need to work on, and they work on it.
Yeah.
Even like they said, like the McDavids and the Crosbys continue to get better and work at everything in their game, and just they're good all over the ice, and they certainly create their own opportunities and they finish them. So I think he's working on that. I think he could have a big second half of the year. He was, a guy I think that was probably on the list for that prospects game.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if he got snubbed because he did hit a bit of a rough patch where he wasn't putting up many goals. So hopefully he uses that at motivation, comes out the right way in the second half. A good start with this 2-goal game against Ottawa, but I hope he has a big second half where he gets some stats and he continues to work on his overall game.
Yeah.
Anything from you?
Yeah.
Doesn't even have to be a player.
Yeah.
It can be an overall thing.
Yeah. So there's 2 for me versus the power play.
Yep.
There's been nights where it's just killed their momentum.
Yep.
And with the skill on this team up front, I thought they would be a little bit more cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it looks very one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, expecting a little more from, again, not harping on this guy, but if I was to ask you who has 2 goals on this team, 11 points in 25 games, and is -9 from last year that's on this team, do you know who that is?
Is it forward?
Yeah.
Is it McCollum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I was expecting him to drive the offense. Last year, at the end of the year, he was getting like 2 goals a game.
Mm-hmm.
He was elite and all fast at the ice. He's still an elite player.
Mm-hmm.
I still really, really like him.
Mm-hmm.
He does take penalties sometimes that hurts because you need him on the ice. That's how valuable he is to this team.
Yep.
But if you had asked me if McCallum would have 2 goals right now, I would be a little disappointed.
Yeah.
Just because I know what he can be, like
sure.
you know what Taylor can be.
Yep.
You know he can be an offensive catalyst for this team.
And we need him to be.
And yeah, you need him to be that for this team.
Yep.
So for me, I think I was expecting more from him as a player, because I don't think his first goal was until like 2 games before the break.
Right. Yeah.
But I do really like him. I like what he does for this team. He definitely finishes every check.
Mm-hmm.
You can see he gives everything he has. Maybe he's just got a little bit of bad puck luck, but 2 goals for me is just too little.
Yep. Agreed. Yep. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. What about second half expectations?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I've been thinking about this. So I want to see kind of that Windsor Spitfire like progression from last year, where they came into the second half and they were a team that you didn't want to play and came out most nights with a win.
Yep.
They kind of used that trajectory to go into this year and have built off of it. And that's what I want to see the Petes do, is I want to see them pile some wins together, be a top 6 team in the East in the second half. So I'm not saying finish in the top 6. I'm saying be one of the top 6 teams and based on their record in the second half. I want to see them be that team, because this is our core moving forward. It's not going to get much different next year.
Yeah.
So I want to see this team gel, and can they put a win streak together? Can they be one of the top teams in the East, 6 teams in the East with their team? And can their power play improve? I think that's, for me, are their big 3 question marks.
Yep.
How about you for the second half?
Yeah, it's similar. Definitely, I like what you're saying with that Windsor Spitfire comparison from last year. For me, it's a continued progression from the young guys, and that's not necessarily just the rookies. It's the core that are second year players now. I want to see them continue to take over, because they're going to be the guys that, when this team's ready to contend, that are driving the ship. So I want to see Caden Taylor continue his streak he's on right now. I want to see Aiden Young. I want to see Carson Cameron. I want to see Nico Addy continue to play well up front and put up some stats. I want to see Those guys, I want to see Zach Bowen continue to play solid back there. And then I want to see some of the young guys get their opportunity and continue to play in more meaningful minutes. You know, Gowan, Eula, more Mason Johnson, more Easton Rye. I know it's tough when you have 3 goalies and you have to get everyone minutes, but I want to see, you know, guys that are going to be big parts of this team. I want them to have the chance to progress in this second half. And I want to see them continue to play hard no matter what the score is. They've done it so far, and I want to see fun, entertaining hockey games, win or lose, and they haven't disappointed yet. I don't think it's in their DNA to disappoint the way Rob Wilson coaches, but continued, let's give it all we got. Let's be a hard team to play against from whistle to the end of the game.
Fair enough.
That's what I'm expecting.
So we are officially in the second half now.
Yep.
They did start with that 5-4 loss. They actually have quite a tough schedule coming into the start of the break. 5 games in 8 days. They played one of those, but the next 4 are actually on the road, so they don't have a home game until a week from this Thursday. So they go into Niagara, actually play them on the 31st, so tomorrow. Then they go on do their up north trip. They play North Bay on Thursday of that week on the 2nd. Then they go to the Sioux on the 3rd, and then they have Sudbury 2 nights later. So 3 games in 4 nights. It's going to be a tough one. Those are barns, has some loud fans, hard rinks to play in, but it should be a good way for them to come together too. I'm excited because you go on the road as a team for a long stretch and maybe you get to know each other better. It's you against kind of everybody because you don't have your fans for those games. So I'm excited to see if this group can just use this road trip as a building block.
It'll be a good test too of where they're at and where this team is mentally and physically and how they prepared. So interesting. Well, I am excited for the second half of the season. I loved the first game back was very entertaining. I'm looking forward to see where these guys go. I'll be very interested to see what comes and goes within the next few weeks with the trade deadline coming up. We will have that in one of our future shows, kind of maybe a preview and an analysis of any trades they do end up making. But for now anyways, we hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas. We wish you all the best, a start to the new year. I don't know if you guys have any New Year's resolutions, but hopefully you guys have time to reflect on the year that was and make some good plans for the year that is coming. And let's get out and continue to support the boys as the calendar flips to 2025. So thanks again for tuning into our podcast. You can find our episodes on Facebook. You can find them on YouTube. Both those locations will be posted on our social media pages on Facebook and on Instagram. If you want to listen to the audio, it will also be posted on Spotify, and we will have that link posted on our social media sites as well. So thanks again, fans. Happy New Year. And as always, go Pete's, go!